if you feel like a completely different, much more boring person when you speak English, I promise you it is not in your head.
Yeah. Welcome back to English Unfiltered. Today we are doing a deep dive into, well, a really frustrating reality for so many learners.
Right. The feeling where you are this funny, passionate, intense person in your native language, but then you switch to English and suddenly you're just like flat.
Yeah, completely muted, less expressive. It feels like your entire personality just vanishes.
It's so weird. I always compare it to trying to give this charismatic, Oscar-winning acting performance on stage, but at the exact same time, you are trying to do complex calculus in your head.
Which you obviously can't do. You just can't do both at once.
Exactly. But I always assumed, it was just a vocabulary issue, like we just don't know the right slang to be funny. But is it actually a structural brain problem?
It totally is. It comes down to something very literal, which is brain energy allocation.
Yeah.
Think about what your brain is doing when you speak English.
Mostly panicking.
Well, yeah, I mean, mechanically, it's running this massive, exhausting background program. You are obsessing over grammar, you're hunting for words, monitoring your pronunciation.
We're terrified of making a mistake.
Exactly. So there is literally zero processing power left for emotional performance.
Okay, so the power is drained. But wait, I want to push back on that for a second.
Yeah, go for it.
Because even when I know the words perfectly, like if I have a sentence completely memorized, I still feel robotic. Why doesn't the emotion just attach to the vocabulary I already have?
So that is where the timing factor comes in.
Yeah.
True emotional expression actually requires really precise timing.
Like spontaneity.
Right, and a natural rhythm. But second language processing introduces this tiny mechanical micro delay.
Wait, a delay?
Yeah, the actual mechanics of translating thought to speech in a non-native tongue slows your nervous system down.
Oh, wow.
It's just enough to completely flatten the emotional wave.
Wait, that's actually wild. So the emotion literally dies in the delay.
It does.
It's not that you lack the vocabulary for the emotion. It's that the cognitive lag just kills the spontaneous rhythm you need to actually feel it in the moment.
Precisely. But honestly, it gets even crazier.
How so?
It's not just that your brain is slow. Your brain is actively suppressing your emotions.
Wait, actively suppressing them? That sounds a little extreme, doesn't it?
I know it does.
Like, why would the brain intentionally put up a wall just because I'm speaking English?
It all comes down to this biological drive for social safety. There's this fascinating competition happening in your head.
Between what?
Between your prefrontal cortex, which handles rules and self-monitoring, and your amygdala.
Right, where your raw emotions live.
Exactly. The rule enforcer literally overrides the emotion center.
So the rule enforcer is basically bullying the emotion center.
Yeah, in a way, when you speak a second language, your unconscious mind just decides that clarity and correctness are way more important than passion.
Because it feels like a high-risk zone.
Right. It wants to avoid the social embarrassment of a mistake at all costs.
Wow. So it forces everything through this like hesitation filter.
Exactly.
Because in your native language, your feelings just flow automatically. Boom, you're angry, you sound angry.
Right.
But in English, there's this profound feeling of distance from yourself because you are unconsciously playing it safe.
Yeah, that hesitation filter is acting as a protective shield. Your prefrontal cortex is prioritizing survival over personality.
So it's basically like driving a sports car with the emergency brake pulled all the way up.
Oh, that is the perfect way to look at it.
We are so terrified of crashing, like making a social or grammatical mistake, that we just refuse to go fast enough to actually have a personality.
Yes, the prefrontal cortex is yanking that emergency brake. And I mean, this brings us to the hidden truth you really need to hear today.
Which is?
Your emotional intensity is not missing. Your personality has not vanished.
It's just moving through a cognitive delay.
Exactly, and a high security checkpoint.
Okay.
The real you is still completely there. And knowing this gives you a really fascinating choice about how you communicate going forward.
Yeah, you can recognize when that prefrontal cortex is taking over.
Exactly. And decide if the situation actually requires perfect grammar or if you can afford to just let the amygdala take the wheel.
So the next time you feel emotionally smaller in English, remember, you aren't losing yourself. You're just doing the mental equivalent of heavy weightlifting while navigating an obstacle course.
Which is exhausting.
Totally. Which leaves us with a pretty provocative question to mull over.
Let's hear it.
If aiming for perfect correctness is the very thing that triggers that hesitation filter and kills your emotional rhythm, what would happen to your personality if you intentionally chose to ignore grammar for a day, just to speak at the speed of your actual emotions?